Okay, Chair Danielson, you're live.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mishi-Saugig territory and in the traditional territory of the Mishi-Saugig and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Good afternoon and welcome to the County of Haliburton's Land Division Committee. My name is Liz Danielson and I'm the chair of the committee. I'd like to introduce you to the other members. Tammy McKelvey, Councillor at Large for Minden Hills. Pat Kennedy, Public Member for Dysart et al. Bob Snyder, Public Member representing Highlands East. And Bill Donald, Public Member representing Algonquin Highlands. We're also joined by our Director of Planning, Elizabeth Purcell, and our official planner, Adam Kozlowski, who is also acting as the Land Division Secretary Treasurer. This meeting is held through remote electronic participation in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. The purpose of the hearing is to give each applicant or their authorized agent the opportunity to discuss their application with the committee and to respond to written submissions which may have been received. It is also an opportunity for committee members to broaden their understanding of each application by asking questions. Members of the public who are participating virtually today may also make oral submissions to the committee, whether in support or opposition to the application. We hear the applications in the same order as they were received in our office. Our planner will introduce each application and provide planning briefs. Then participants who have registered to address the committee will be admitted virtually to speak to the committee and will be provided 5 minutes to speak to the committee or longer if necessary. With that, we'll proceed with the agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented? Member Donald and Member Snyder.
Be it resolved that the February 10th, 2025 Land Division Committee agenda be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of January the 13th? Member Kennedy and Member McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the Land Division Committee meeting held January 13th, 2025 be approved as printed and circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. So we'll move into the applications for consent. The first being Calvieri to sever 2 new rural residential lots in Minden Hills.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll share screen with committee and walk you through a brief presentation. And excuse me, I trust everyone can see this screen?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, the application before committee today, it's 2 applications, file numbers H4624 and H4724. Con 7 Lot 32 on County Road 21 in the township of Minden Hills. It's vacant land. And the proposal is to sever 2 new rural residential lots. And county official plan is rural area, and it is rural zone in the Minden Hills zoning bylaw. For location context, the red star is on the property. It's just on the south side of 21, about halfway between Minden and Haliburton Village, closer to Haliburton Village. And this green line here is the boundary between Dysart and Minden Hills. And just zooming in a little bit, the property is located highlighted in red, and it's basically a heavily forested property. And it's just down 21 from the Limestone Golf Course, as you can see in the air photo. And this is Kashagawigamog Lake here. I pronounced it right that time. Oops, sorry. So I'll start on the east side. So severed lot 1 is this portion of the property here. And severed lot 1 has 658 feet of frontage on County Road 21 with 9.48 acres of land area, and it's vacant. The second lot, severed lot 2, has 500 feet of frontage on County Road 21 with 7.13 acres of land area. And finally, the retained lot on the west side has 631 feet of frontage on County Road 21 with 6.21 acres of land area. I just want to briefly give an overview of the events that occurred in the fall, and that was installation of 2 entrances. One was installed on severed lot 1, and one was on severed lot 2, and it was noticed by Public Works staff. So I did talk with the director, and he indicated that there were no entrance permits issued for these 2 entrances, and so staff performed an investigation. And the main concern was the entrance on severed lot 1 is that it appeared to have been installed fairly close to this wetland buffer, and this is from the Riverstone EIS that was submitted with the application. And in the agenda package, there is a supplemental report from Riverstone. They've basically indicated where that road and entrance was installed. It was in the wetland buffer, not in the wetland itself. And then that driveway basically came in south into the lot. And then there was a cleared area for a future building envelope. There were photographs in the agenda package as well. The entrance on severed lot 2 did not cross through any environmental features. So the only issue with that entrance is that it needs a permit. I did talk to Public Works staff about these 2 entrances, and they don't have any concerns with the sight lines. They just need to apply for the necessary permits in this case. So just in summary, the Council of Minden Hills has endorsed the application. There were no public comments received as a result of the circulation. And again, County Public Works will require entrance permits for severed lots 1 and 2. And those are conditions that are listed in the staff report as conditions of approval. Staff recommend approval of the application subject to the conditions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about this application. And I also believe Bev Wicks from Riverstone is here if there are any environmental questions, as is Nick from TD Consulting, who is the agent for applicant. Thank you.
Do any of the committee members have questions for Adam? Member Kennedy?
Oh yeah, just to be clear on this, Adam. So the pre-consultation was done in April of 2024, and then Riverstone did their assessment in September, and then sometime after September, the proponents just decided to put the driveways in without talking to anybody, and either the county or paying any credence at all to the Riverstone report. And I see that there's no penalties for this kind of thing. That just surprises me. I mean, everything is fine as far as your entrances now, and that I just find it hard to believe in this day and age that you break a couple of rules, you just go ahead and do it and beg forgiveness. That's just more of a comment than a question, I guess. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Just through you, Madam Chair, just again, these applications were made back in the fall, and when the entrance issues were discovered, as well as the wetland buffer, I had a conversation with Nick from TD, and I said, you need to go back and reassess that driveway that went through the buffer. I'm not taking these to Land Division until we're assured that there's no impacts. So I guess in this case, the penalty was there was a few months before these were straightened out and could be heard.
Member McKelvey?
So I too am very disappointed that these were put in, but I'm assuming when they had to go back, excuse me, to Riverstone, they would have had to pay more money for that second supplementary work, which I guess is a bit of a penalty for their actions. But I mean, I have no problems with the lots. I think it's, more residential lots for buildings we need, but I kind of agree with Member Kennedy that perhaps there should be some penalties for these things. I don't know if the county has road entrance permits that are done before entrances, before approvals, and the entrance permit costs you twice as much.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I don't know what the fee schedule says in that regard, but like you said, it did require additional field work from Riverstone. So, and time as well to get it before committee. But we wouldn't be here if those issues had been resolved.
Any other questions for Adam? Member Donald?
Adam, I noted in your report, just a comment, I think you have the site size at 97 acres, and I think that maybe is a typo. My question is that the report indicates that certain mitigation measures are going to be in place to ensure that the driveway is never enlarged. And I was just wondering what those mitigation measures were or barriers were in terms of the driveway over the buffer area.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, Bev Wicks is in attendance today, and if it's okay with Member Donald, perhaps when we get to that section, Bev can answer your question specifically.
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Other questions for Adam? I'm sorry, Adam, did you say that Mr. Fagan was here or not?
Through you, Madam Chair, so I do see Nick here, and I do see Bev.
Okay, if you want to bring them in and
Sure.
let them speak.
Yep.
Good afternoon to you both. Is there anything that you wish to add? I think you heard the question from Member Donald. Bev, so you might want to maybe respond to that and add any other information that you'd like to.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. So you're correct. We did go out and do an environmental impact study and had provided protective buffers around the features, and we were called back to review a driveway or two driveways that have been put in areas that were thought to be within the features. And we went out and we actually confirmed that, yes, one of the driveways was located in a buffer. We provided a subsequent letter that included several recommendations, including the fact that the driveway should not be widened anymore. And we had to figure out ways, just so that everybody understands, when we make a recommendation, it has to be implementable through some sort of tool or process that you have to enforce it. So we can provide a loose recommendation like, please don't cut down trees, but it has to be something, in our opinion, to demonstrate no negative impact that is enforceable. So the recommendations that we put forward were that there should not be any more widening of the driveway or removal of any more vegetation proximate to the buffer. The edge of the driveway should be marked somehow, so that, you know, whoever purchases this lot and starts to build on it in the future is very clear that this is the edge and it shouldn't go any further. So that could be done either through large pieces of bedrock or a fence, so that snow plowing or whatever doesn't happen in that area. All the remaining vegetation adjacent to the wetlands and water courses must be left in the natural state, and the buffers should be zoned with a protective zoning. So it doesn't, if there's another instrument that can be used by the municipality to implement that, then that would be fine. But putting these into a protective zoning to have it as a use that doesn't allow any development in it is appropriate. And we've also recommended that any of the hydro servicing that is to go into that lot cannot be within those buffers. It needs to go in somewhere else, so that there's no additional clearing in the wetland or the buffer itself, because often hydro takes the path of least resistance. And this would further reduce any additional vegetation removal. And then the last thing is that the rest of the environmental impact study recommendations be implemented. So those were our recommendations, and if those can be implemented through either some sort of development agreement or through zoning, then it's my opinion that you know, there'll be no further impact to the wetlands or the buffers.
Thank you. Mr. Fagan, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
No, miss. I believe that Bev has explained everything perfectly there, and of course she's the resident expert as it relates to this file. And one thing that I maybe would add is that I know that I believe the preferred method by the owner is that some of the trees that were cleared there's some leftover logs, and those will be the barriers that are implemented to ensure that the laneway is not further expanded. So there will be a fence constructed. Of course, it's the wrong time of year to do something like that right now, but that is, I believe, the plan from here on in. Of course, if there's any further comments or desires from the committee or the planning departments, then we're more than happy to comply with that as well.
Are there question or comment from Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through you to the committee. So just to further Bev's comments about other tools or mechanisms, there are conditions on these properties, and for the first severed lot where the driveway has gone through the buffer, there is a requirement that a rezoning be obtained for each of the severed lots to basically indicate where the EP zones or the hazard zones will be, as well as the buffers. And then there is a condition that a development agreement be entered into, which will enshrine or give teeth to the Riverstone reports when the property is developed in the future.
Thank you. Questions, Member McKelvey?
Just the thought of the logs being used as a barrier so that there's no widening of the driveway. I think that's what was referenced. I would highly recommend that that be checked with the township of Minden Hills in this case, because they're going to have that in their development agreement and they may not be satisfied with that. So before you go ahead and do that, I would highly recommend that that be checked out.
Other comments or questions from the committee? Member Snyder? You're on mute, Bob.
Sorry, thank you. I'm just wondering why, if Hydro 1 is not to use the driveway that has been put in to access, if there's poles put in, they're going to open up another 30 feet of trees through the property. Why is the driveway that's been put in, why is it not being closed off and a new driveway being put in that Hydro 1 can use?
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Fagan.
Mr. Snyder, or through you, Madam Chair, just so that you're aware, there is a hydro pole that's relatively close by, and I know that a line can be taken from that pole relatively easily and access the property without encroaching on any of those buffers. Now, I'd be happy to let Bev speak further on this as well, but I do believe one of her comments was that closing off this laneway and opening in another location may create further disturbance, which is something that we were looking to mitigate and reduce as well. But again, I would be more than happy to have her expand on that comment and determine whether or not another laneway should be put in a separate location.
Go ahead, Bev.
So I think the answer, it's okay for a hydro line to go down the driveway as long as it doesn't result in any further clearing or required maintenance of those trees. So usually when you put a hydro line down, that hydro line requires removal of tree tops that are touching the lines and those sorts of things. And it's not a very wide driveway as it is. And we didn't want the driveway, or sorry, the hydro line to go through the wetland side or the buffer side, because that's further disturbance in that feature. The reason the driveway is probably located where it is that there is a very large, or not, it's not a large, there's a rock outcrop that occurs. And so in order to relocate the driveway from the location that it's been constructed, there would probably have to be some element of blasting or fill brought in and additional tree removal. So you would end up in a much wider swath of trees being removed. So that's the reason we did not end up recommending the rehabilitation of the existing driveway and an additional location considered. I don't know if that answers your question fully, Mr. Snyder.
So just maybe Adam can just clarify if he knows this. In terms of Hydro 1 putting power into the property, they don't need any permits from the county. Is that correct? They can just go as they please.
Through you, Madam Chair. No, I'm not aware of any permit requirement for Hydro to do work. If they're going to service a property, that's between them and the landowner.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I've seen none. Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the staff report and grant provisional approval to both the applications? Member McKelvey, seconded by Member Kennedy.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton receive the staff report related to applications for consent H4624 and H4724, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H4624, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H4724, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes.
And Chair Danielson.
Yes. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, committee.
Thanks for providing us with additional information.
My pleasure. Look forward to the next time.
Okay, we'll move on to the next application, which is Harbor Holdings with low-density residential lots and mixed-use lots in Dysart et al. If you want to go over that.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll share screen. Okay, so the application before committee today is for 3 new lots plus 1 retained lot within the settlement area of Haliburton Village and the municipality of Dysart. The applications are H54, 55, and 56 of 24, and this is a vacant property on the west shore of Grass Lake, shown by the red star here. So it's just on the outside of the main settlement area. It's within the settlement area, however, on the south side of County Road 21. And just looking at an air photo, this is from 2023, just showing the subject lands outlined in red and just showing some of the commercial and higher density residential on the north side of 21, as well as some of the shoreline oriented residential development on Peninsula Road. Oops. So I'll start up at the top here on the first application. So H5424 is to create a mixed use lot. So this, and I will talk a little bit about the special zone that's been approved for this property, but just for dimensions. So the property has 5.16 acres of lot area, and it flanks on Peninsula Road here, which it's about 367 feet of frontage. It also fronts on County Road 21, 452 feet of frontage. However, the entrance would be off of Peninsula Road for future development. And then it also has 485 feet of shoreline cord frontage, which is more or less flooded lands that are part of the retained lot. And just moving down to severed lot 2, H55, this property has 672 feet of frontage on Peninsula Road here, and then it has 347 feet of frontage, again, abutting that flooded area, which is the retained lands. And finally, H5624 is severed lot 3. This property has 916 feet of frontage on Peninsula Road. And sorry, I'm reading the wrong dimensions here. 279 feet of frontage on Peninsula Road, which is right here, and 498 feet of cord frontage on the flooded lands on the retained lot. So these 2 properties also have entrances. They were in the site photos included with the package. And finally, the retained lot, as highlighted in red, it has 1,328 feet of frontage on Grass Lake, being right here where my cursor is. And then it has 916 feet of frontage on Peninsula Road. There is an entrance right about here where my cursor is, and it goes into an upland area. There's also a pond.
Your cursor, Adam? Maybe I'm the only one. Can everyone
No,
else?
I'm not seeing it, no.
Oh,
there you
sorry.
go.
There we go.
Sorry, I had it on the wrong screen. Okay. The entrance for the retained lot is approximately here where my cursor is, and there's an upland area here. And then there's a pond approximately here, and I'll show this on a later slide. So the retained parcel, the total lot area is 25.3 acres, and of that, 9 acres is upland area, basically high and dry, and 16.25 acres is flooded, and it's basically cattail marsh and wetland. So severed lot 1 would be for new mixed uses, which includes residential and commercial. The 2 properties to the south are for low density residential, as is the retained lot. So just in very, very brief history summary here. So these the official plan amendment and zoning amendment, as well as the consents, were endorsed by Dysart Council back in the fall of 22. And then they were, the official plan amendment was approved by the county in April of 23. And that official plan amendment approval was subsequently appealed. And then later in the fall, Dysart Council approved the rezoning, which was then appealed, and they consolidated the hearing. And there was going to be an OLT hearing this past fall. However, the 2 parties were able to settle. And the settlement consisted of basically a downgrading substantially of the residential permissions. So it went from 88 total units dispersed amongst the 4 properties to a maximum of 35 on the mixed use lot up at County Road 21. And then the retained lot and the 2 severed lots are all permitted for 1 residential dwelling each. So the official plan amendment establishes this kind of khaki green here is now suburban residential area designation in the Dysart plan. Severed lot 1 is now designated for mixed use areas, and the rest of the property is the wetlands and the ponds are all environmental protection designation. And so when we look at the zoning, starting at the top, the mixed use property has a highway commercial 36 special zone. And then each of the 2 new lots plus the retained lot have a suburban residential special zone as well. And then the balance of the property, which is environmental protection, has the appropriate EP1 special zone. So just very, very, very quickly. So the 2 properties down here that have that RS6 zone, they allow 1 residential dwelling per lot, and they allow a guest cabin and an additional residential unit. And that's the same with the retained piece here. And they also have a hold provision, which will require that the applicant has to enter into additional Planning Act approvals with the municipality of Dysart to lift the hold. And in this case, the residential low density lots have to provide stormwater management plans, and that's basically to protect the wetland areas from runoff and erosion. The retained lot also has a special provision, to remove the hold, which is an agreement with the vet clinic to ensure that there's no negative impact on water supply once the wells are drilled. The mixed use property up at the top here has in terms of zoning, I'll start with, it's allowed a maximum of 35 residential dwelling units. And this can be within a medium density dwelling. So it could be like a 6-plex or something similar to that, as well as a host of commercial uses, which also include accessory residential units. So apartments above a store is kind of the idea. This property will be subject to site plan control. It'll also have to prepare a stormwater management report. If they do decide to go through a drinking water system, private communal drinking system, there will be an agreement that has to be entered into with the municipality. And then we'll also have to be engineering drawings and approvals for connections to the sanitary sewer. That's either on 21 or on Peninsula Road. But those items will all be addressed by Dysart in future when the properties are being prepared to be developed, and there will be additional Planning Act approvals and studies required to remove those hold provisions. So just in summary, the municipality has endorsed the application to create the 3 new lots plus the severed lot. The Ontario Land Tribunal approved the minutes of settlement between Friends of Grass Lake and the proponent. So the official plan and the zoning is in effect as of November 29th, 2024. We did not receive any comments from the public relating to the circulation that was sent out, and we did not receive any agency comments. So staff recommend approval of the applications, subject to the conditions that are in the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I believe Mr. Tony Usher is also here. He's the planning consultant on behalf of Harbin Holdings. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Is there any kind of advance word on what type of commercial developments would be are being proposed?
Madam Chair, through you and to the committee, the special zoning on the property, it's a range of uses that's it ranges from like a bank to, I'm just going to try to bring up the special zone here. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm just going through many pages here.
Page 9, Adam.
Gotcha. Okay. So the permitted uses in addition to those residential uses. So for example, you have a bank, business office, clinic, merchandise service shop, neighborhood store, professional office. So not uses that are super high traffic generating, more locally focused type commercial uses, in addition to those residential uses that are also permitted.
So nothing like a gas station, fast food.
I do see a restaurant and a takeout restaurant. I don't see any type of gas station or any type of automobile business related to that type of use. They all appear to be, again, kind of 9 to 5 type uses, with the exception of the restaurant.
My other question is the on the issue of the guest cabins. Is that equal to a bunkie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be it would be for overflow accommodation, so it wouldn't be a standalone residence. It would have to conform with or comply with the zoning bylaw for what's permitted in a bunkie.
Questions from members of the committee? Wow, big development. Okay, if we have, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Member McKelvey.
Just on that comment, it is a really big development, but it's a really good development that we're going to finally see. It's not that I don't have questions. I've followed this process through the last several years through Dysart's meetings. So I'm just glad to see we're finally getting it to the final stages here.
Any other questions for Adam? Then maybe we can bring Mr. Usher in. Is
Yes,
Mr.
through you,
Usher?
yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So I have Mr. Usher, and I believe Paul Wilson is also here if there are any specific questions for him.
Good afternoon, Mr. Usher. Is there anything that you'd like to add to the information that's been provided?
Thank you, Chair Danielson, and good afternoon, committee. Not much. I want to thank Adam for his very good summary, and we're very happy with the recommendations and the proposed conditions. Just make 2 very brief comments. Adam had mentioned that the large retained lot would be, among other things, subject to the agreement, which was actually part of the county's official plan, modification of the official plan amendment, but would be subject to the agreement with the Haliburton Veterinary Services. That also applies to the mixed-use lot at the north, the Severance One. And I guess also, Madam Chair, with regard to your question about the permitted commercial uses, I can't give you a complete list off the top of my head, and I'm sure you wouldn't want me to, but we went through the permitted uses, the standard permitted uses for this zone in Dysart zoning bylaw are a lot longer than what we came up with. We discussed this with staff at Dysart, and we tried to get out everything that would be, as Adam suggested, higher impact, or that would have a higher, for lack of a better word, ecological intensity, like heavy water using, things like car washes and so on. So I would characterize the uses that are permitted there as light impact commercial uses. I don't really have anything else to say. If you have any questions, any other questions of me, or if anything you would want to ask Paul, that's it. Thank you very much.
Any questions from the committee for either Mr. Usher or Mr. Wilson? I will say I do know this is a long time coming. We're calling your first presentation to County Council. There's been a significant change to what was initially proposed, and I must say I'm glad to see that this is finally going ahead, because we do need housing badly. So I'm glad to see that we're finally at this stage. Any other questions or comments? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the report and grant provisional approvals 05424, 05524, and 05624? Member McKelvey and Member Donald.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the staff report related to applications for consent H 5424, 5524, and 5624, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H 5424, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. And that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H 5524, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. And that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H 5624, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes.
And Chair Danielson.
Yes. Those are approved, and absolutely good luck with the development. Okay, is there any other business that we need to discuss? Adam? Other than your desire for a Swiss chalet to be located.
I hope Tony heard that. Maybe he can get on that. No, just for next month, I have 3 and possibly 3 more. There's a few details that have to be ironed out still, but we're looking at least 3 next month.
Okay, I see that our next committee meeting is on March the 10th. Hopefully that date works for everyone.
Yes.
Right on. So having taken care of all of our business, can I have a motion to adjourn? Member Kennedy, seconded by Member Snyder. Thank you.
Be it resolved that the February 10th, 2025 Land Division Committee meeting be hereby adjourned.
All in favor? Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Have a great
Thank you.
afternoon.
Okay, thanks.
Enjoy the day.
Have a good afternoon.
See you next month.